It's the 1000th episode of Phinside, the NFL. We got to 1000 after the journey started back in March of 2020. So it's a milestone show, and I'll be joined tonight by Mr. BallGame and by Richmond Webb as we meet y'all at the finish line. Tonight, we will talk about Robert Hunt. Chris Grier basically said he's going to test free agency. We'll talk about that. Also, we will talk about Spotrac's projection of Tua Tagovailoa's deal. Chris Grier also went ahead and squashed the Jaylen Waddle rumors. We'll talk about that. So much more as the Miami Dolphins are graded one of the best teams to play for in the NFL. We got tons to talk about. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Here's to the next 1,000 more.
Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jaylen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field down the near side, that open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it over the touchdown. He's in. Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up, huddle up. We're gonna crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Wait, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the finish line.
I coached some great offensive linemen in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. BallGame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for the 1,000th time. I want to thank all y'all for tuning in on this Wednesday night as we meet y'all here at the finish line. We got a ton to talk about as Chris Grier's presser happened today at the NFL Combine. If you missed yesterday's show, I gave you the top 50 players Miami Dolphin fans should be keeping an eye on at the Combine. So, man, I gave y'all 5 players at 10 different positions of need for the Dolphins currently right now. So go check that video out if you have not yet. Richmond and BallGame. Hey, at least tonight we're celebrating 1,000 and I'm not riding solo like some, loner out here, but appreciate y'all for coming through. How has your week been, gentlemen, as we're starting to ramp up in the draft and free agency season, my favorite time of the year, next to obviously the season, I guess. But anyways, y'all know what I meant. How y'all feeling? I know y'all be, once the receivers in Richmond, the O linemen and BallGame, the DBs are out here taking their measurements and running their drills. Y'all will be focused directly on the Combine. How are y'all feeling with the Combine right around the corner? Are you having flashbacks, Richmond, or what?
No, to be having flashback, man. My bulb burned out a long time ago. And, I'm looking forward to it. But hey, congratulations again, Mr. Kilo G. Didn't hit 1,000 episodes, man. That's bro. I was kind of thinking back when I had to read the Twitter post you put out there, and man, it don't seem like it was that long ago. But man, how you've grown this channel and educated people along the way and this and that. And, I was just happy to be a part of it. You put in to get it to where it is now, and it's gonna keep growing this and that. And then the relationship me, you, and BallGame got, man, that's process bit. Back to what we're talking about, a shout out. Definitely forward to the combine, seeing some of those guys work out. It's always a couple of guys that kind of above out of the box or whatever that are coming in and blow a 40 away, do so many reps at 225 or have really great workouts. So definitely looking forward to that. And the next thing is a draft and then minicamp. So you have a little waiting period, but with the way they kind of stagger everything, it's not that long. So looking forward to it. So other than that, I'm good. How you doing, Mr. BallGame?
Congrats on the 1,000 episodes there, my boy. You know what I mean? It's like I said from the beginning when you first decided to go and do this, I said you probably would be the best man for this position because I know like no one else, you was gonna put the work in and you was gonna make sure that there was gonna be quality content at all times being put out to the fan base and to the world and anybody willing to sit down and watch. I'm always like Richmond, man. I'm just blessed to be a part of the process, man, and be, along for the ride, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of people try. A lot of people try to emulate and try to do things the way you're doing it, man. But there's only one you, bro. And I'm glad I know you.
Appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? And what we've built, man, has just been awesome and amazing, man. And I look forward to us continuing to provide quality content and knowledge and grow our fan base in the proper way of understanding this game that we love. Now, in regards to the time of the year, man. Yeah, I think the combine is always interesting. It's always an exciting time. But, to be honest with you as a coach, man, once you're a coach, you never lose the fact of I like to see guys actually in action, man. I hate watching things happen on air and all that other type of stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm a film junkie. I want to see, I want to look at the film and then I want to see you doing it against a live body. The combine is just, unless some kid just completely just jumps off the chart in terms of their measurables and stuff. You know what I mean?
It's the underwear Olympics, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna refer to the tape because the tape gonna tell me more about whether you a dog than you out there running around in them short, in them shorts and tank tops. So,
bro, perfect example. Do you guys remember how high I was a couple years ago on the running back out of Notre Dame, Kyron Williams, and then he had one of the worst combines ever. Remember, he was like a top 3. I was like, man, this guy might be one of the better running backs of this draft. He was top 3. Then he had one of the worst combines ever. And it was the one time I let a combine affect my numbers. I dropped him from like 2 or 3 all the way to 6 or 7. And look at the season he just had with the Rams. Look at the season he just had with the Rams, man. Like the Rams offense was not the same when he wasn't in there. And Kyron was a beast this year. And it just goes to show what you're kind of saying holds true. The film will always supersede the underwear Olympics. It will always supersede it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, think of the irony, bro. You know how tape-oriented am I? Am I saying on the channels all 22 or nothing? And the one time I let the combine affect what I see on tape and my ranking, I get slapped in the face by like, no, you had it right the first time. Stick to the tape. You know what I mean? So, it's what BallGame said. You can get wowed by the freaks, right? Like we didn't expect the Jamar Chase measurements, right? Remember that measurement day? We didn't expect them to be that freakish, right? So if some guy tests who's already high up and he tests freakish for you, okay, or someone rises because they're a freak, we get that, but you can't get lost in it, right? Like that was the lesson that was learned. Take it. I'm not going to say take it with a grain of salt. Right. I won't go there, but you know what I mean? Take it,
just one L, homie. Just
don't oversell it. Don't oversell it,
Just one L.
BallGame, who's your favorite defensive player in this draft? That's what Joe wants to know. Who's your favorite defensive player in this draft?
That's a tough call, man. Because I think there's a lot of good guys, not a lot of great guys, I think. And I I don't have one. Not yet, anyway. I haven't even done my deep dive really of all of the film yet. I do like. Oh man, there's so many, bro. Yeah, come back to me. Come back. I don't want to answer that right now. Give me a second to think about it because I don't want to give him. I want to give him a real, genuine answer. One that.
Shout out to Swamp Donkey Crypto. He donates $2. He said, "Congrats on 1K." Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right. And you got some checking out his favorites: Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Darius Robinson is Scotty Joe's. You know, I think a guy who's going to test freakishly might be Chop Robinson. The things I'm hearing
Chop Robinson.
Dude, I mean, people from Penn State are saying he's faster than Micah Parsons, and he might be just as, you know, he had a quicker shuttle. They think he's going to run around the same 40 time that Parsons ran. So you might get a freak showing from him. I'm surprised you didn't say a guy like Jared Verse, or I'm surprised you weren't loving on your Jared Verse.
I think
they asked not to. I just don't think he's going to be there.
Yeah, well, Verse is an obvious favorite for me because of my affinity for Florida State. But you know, when you really going through this process, I mean, a guy like Byron Murphy, I like. Texas. You know what I'm saying, out of Texas.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There are a lot of good defensive players
out of LSU.
Well, you haven't even talked about any corners yet. Where's your corner love?
Yeah. Nope. But no, that's the only reason I haven't talked about those guys is because of the fact that there's so many different guys that do. No guy does like everything for me. You have a guy like Kool-Aid, right? I mean, he's a name that everybody knows, but Kool-Aid struggles in the back end for zone, but he's a nice man piece, you know what I mean? And then you got like Chris Abrams out of Missouri, you know, he's a zone guy. You feel me? None of them do everything good. You see what I'm saying? So there's a bunch of holes that, you know, you got to just figure out exactly kind of what you want. Right?
Well, and I mean, look at a guy that's risen to a lot of people's top because of what he did at the Senior Bowl and stuff. Look at a guy like Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo. The guy played in the MAC conference, right? Like, what's he going to do? You know, he's a great athlete, et cetera, great boundary corner. But what happens when now he's going to go up against real competition, right? You know, like you're like, there's questions about all these guys, right? You know,
question
like
marks in regards to when he can compete.
Yeah. I know. Neil absolutely loves Cooper DeJean, right? I know I've seen Terry and Arnold from Alabama, Kool-Aid's partner, been mocked to us in drafts as well. You know, there's some good corners, man. You got Nate Wiggins out there too, right? So there's some good. Cam Hart from Notre Dame might test really well. There's some good dudes out there right now. So
that's what I said, though, right? They're good. That's what I was saying, though. They're good, but like there's no like Sertan in the group, like a guy that can do everything. You feel me? Like a total package. There's not one of him out there. And I was thinking about that earlier today when my son asked me a very similar question, and he was like, "Who you like?" And I was like, "Depends on where they're going." You know what I mean? So I have to look at the team and think about the philosophy of the team and whether that kid is a fit for the team's philosophy, and then say, yes, okay, that's a good place for him to go.
I don't think they're going to spend a high asset anyways, bro. I don't think they're going to spend a high asset on the cornerback room. I don't. You know, I don't. Listen, I got a Patreon update. There's over 200 of you. I got a Patreon update coming tonight with some combine news, notes, and rumblings. I'll be having it on the Patreon, and I'll be having it for channel members here under the community tab. I'm going to be talking about Rob Hunt. I'll be talking about Tua's deal. I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to be talking about the cornerback room and the cornerback situation. And I'm going to be talking about some of these pending free agents, other names, and some free agents I'm hearing the Miami Dolphins are interested in. So you're going to want to, if you're a Patreon, you're going to be on the lookout for that. It's either going to come tonight or tomorrow morning, but it's probably going to come tonight for Patreons and tonight for channel members. So be sure you are a Patreon or a channel member, and you'll get that tonight. And that tells you how juicy some of this is, because I just dropped a 3 takes a couple of days ago. So I'm circling back around because there's a lot of stuff I have to get out of here. Speaking of, and the reason why one of the reasons why is one of the things that I was made aware of was probably going to happen, and it was talked about today by Chris Grier, and I'm not too happy about it. Chris Grier today suggested that Robert Hunt will test free agency. The two sides discussed an extension during the season. I'm going to have some more in-depth info about this tonight on the Patreon and stuff on just what I'm hearing about the situation. But boys, this is something that you knew when you saw and you read. And I had someone in the chat when I opened this saying, oh, this is probably, read the thing. Miami Dolphins, the title is Miami Dolphins are letting Robert Hunt test free agency. Where's the lie right now? Okay. It's right in front of you in black and white. And I will start with you, Richmond. You knew this probably wasn't going to sit well with me from the moment we drafted him. I was telling everyone what I thought Robert Hunt could be. I thought he could be a all-pro level, Pro Bowl level guard. Now, he never got those accolades, but he played like it. I think he's our biggest mauler on the offensive line. I think he's an absolute stud. Last season when we knew we weren't going to get something done with Wilkins, what was I saying? Pivot. Get Robert Hunt for $8 or $10 million right now instead of playing the season out and watching the market drive up. And that's essentially what's happening. So your thoughts on the fact that they obviously couldn't come to a financial term because they were discussing it all season. I know they have been discussing it through the offseason. And now Grier indicating that they're going to let Robert Hunt test free agency. In your eyes, is it bye-bye Robert Hunt?
It could be. I think the thing when he said that they've visited this during the season and possibly tried to work out an extension, that lets me know that whatever and what he's expecting, the numbers wasn't close. And I know he got injured and stuff like that. And I agree with you, Reason. I think he was a Pro Bowl caliber player. I think his trajectory was definitely all pro. And I think he possibly, if he didn't get hurt, he did this year. He's definitely a Pro Bowl player, this and that. But what that says to me is I think Chris Grier got a number in their head and say, okay, we think somewhere in between here and here, and you're thinking this, but we're willing to take the risk to let you go test the market. And if not, if you don't get what you want, then it plays in the team's favor and say, okay, well, this is what you're offering, this and that. The good thing is some as far as, no state taxes, the system, this and that, it just speaks that they wasn't close, because typically sometimes you'll come down on maybe the number you want because you get money now versus having to play this year out, this and that. It gives you more security for your future. And for him not willing to do that, I don't know what that number is, but definitely they're close. So you just say, okay, well, let's let him test the free agency. And if we lose him, maybe they'll try to pick up somebody else or draft. But that's when I saw that, when they're willing to let you test free agency and just come out this early, and we hadn't even hit March. We were about to hit March. It lets me know that the numbers, what he's expecting and what they're willing to pay is not close. That's the way I read that.
Yeah. BallGame, your thoughts on this? Because the interesting thing about here is there's something similar going on the defense right now where they drafted him in the second round, so they didn't have the fifth-year option. Javon Holland is coming up into his fourth season, and he doesn't have a fifth-year option. What are your thoughts on Robert Hunt being allowed to test free agency? Does this mean bye-bye for you?
Well, I think across the board he's earned that right to be able to do that based on where he was drafted and how much he's contributed over the course of his time with the Dolphins. I do agree with you in regards to the fact that it's unfortunate that they couldn't have locked him up sooner, because that would have made the most sense, because the projection of what he was going to give you based on what you had seen on the field suggested that he was going to be listed probably as one of the top guards in the league at some point. This is another one of the question marks or blemishes on Chris Grier's record in regards to getting out ahead of things. But for guys played his ass for you, he's played his ass off for you, and he's well and outplayed his draft selection position. He's kind of earned the right to go see what he's worth. And I know if he had any representation that was worth the shit, that's probably what I'd be telling my client too. Like, hey, you played your ass off. Everybody in the league know who you are, your household name. A lot of GMs talk about you around the league. Let's go see what that looks like. The worst case scenario would be that we come back to the Dolphins, but at least we have an idea of where your market really is. And I can't be mad at the business side of things. I can be a little upset about the fact that Grier didn't do his part and his due diligence to make sure this didn't happen to us, because the offensive line is the cornerstone to keep to a success in terms of keeping him protected. So it's just frustrating, but it's part of the business, so I accept it for what it is. I'm hoping that the market doesn't quite look the way they're anticipating it look, and then he just come on back. You know what I'm saying? And just accept the contract that's the Dolphins feel is worthy of where he is in terms of his abilities and his ability to help us achieve the next level of success that we want. But time will tell, man. But I think every player deserves to test free agency if they have an opportunity. So,
Richmond, you kind of alluded to something, and it's something I'm going to go further in depth on tonight on the Patreon and under the community tab when I do my update for everyone. But you talked about them being apart on money. So let's stick with that for a sec. Do you think another reason why they're willing to not basically let him have all the leverage or be played into that leverage game is because this coaching staff believes they might be able to fit Eichenberg in at right guard?
That could be a possibility.
And I say that, Richmond, because Eichenberg's on record, and he said he felt most comfortable at right guard. We saw him play there for 2 games, and he said that's not where he feels the most comfortable. Do you think that plays a factor in them not letting Hunt leverage them for a big contract?
I hope not. And the only reason I say that, and I'm glad Eichenberg feels comfortable at right guard, but when you compare the 2 players side by side, I think Robert Hunt, hands down, if it's a battle for who wins that starting job, I think hands down Robert Hunt wins that job. And it also brings up the fact that if Eichenberg, becomes the right guard, then are you going to sign Connor Williams back? So it just opens up kind of Pandora's box that, like BallGame said, you want to solidify your front offensive line, because if you're going to give Tua an extension, and we know how important it is to protect your quarterback, that's typically the highest paid position average overall, it makes sense to build that wall around him, this and that. And that could be a factor, but if they're thinking that, then they might be saying, okay, if we lose Hunt, then maybe we can get Connor Williams back. It's either or this and that. And they could be playing musical chairs a little bit. But I didn't think about that, but that is a great take. If they can get Eichenberg to work there, then they might afford to lose him. But I don't think they want to lose Hunt and Connor Williams. I hope they don't want to lose both of them without getting some type of compensation or something.
I'll talk about Connor Williams tonight. Don't you worry about that on my Patreon, and he's part of the update as well. Let me ask you this, BallGame, and Richmond, if you want to chime in after BallGame, let me know. BallGame,
okay.
People talk about Derrick Henry, bringing in Derrick Henry because he can turn this offense to more of a smash mouth type of culture, more physical type of culture. What kind of message does it send if you let your best offensive lineman you've drafted since Laramie Tunsil walk and your most physical Muller style, smash mouth style of lineman? What happens? What kind of message does that send? Because I get to an extent guards.
You ain't trying to play.
Go ahead.
You ain't trying to play football. Everybody knows that the message that's sent across the board of how tough you are, that's sent on your willingness to be able to engage in the run game, how often and how consistent you want to be in that. That's how the toughness of a team is measured. Their willingness, no matter how many people they put in the box, no matter what the front is, we're gonna run because we know we can, and we trust in our guys and we believe in our guys. When you take a piece like Robert Hunt and you allow him to test free agency, you're basically saying, "Oh, we think we can do it with anyone," which means that at that point you don't value the guys that you really have up front, and that's crazy to me because the guy's been nothing but perform for you at the highest level, and that yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, really, right? You have to prioritize the key pieces that have been solidified for you. That guy's been nothing but an all-pro, even though he didn't get the accolade. That's what he's been, man. Like, take care of that. Now, Connor, on the other hand, for me, anything up front, and you might take some chance. You can take because you don't know what he probably won't even be back to like November. You know what I mean? And even then, it's gonna be sketchy because you never know what you're getting until you actually get out there fully in activity, and he's testing it. But Robert, you know what you're getting from day one, and he and Jackson on that right side is magic, man. I'm not breaking that up. I don't even want to break that. I wouldn't even want to think about breaking that up. So just pay the man and move on from it because every side of the ball, even up front on defense and upside, even on offense, down in those trenches, you have a stalwart of a guy that you have to, that you're willing to rely on because you know without a shadow of a doubt he's not going to be a question mark. And Robert Hunt's been that. Why would you want to remove that check mark in the box that you know without a shadow of a doubt has been solidified? Even before Jackson became a check in the box for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But the business, man, it's the business.
Yeah.
The business is just wow sometimes.
Agreed. Another thing Chris Grier talked about today, gentlemen, and it's something we've talked about on this channel before, and I've dismissed as not only ludicrous but counterproductive to what we're building. Dolphins GM Chris Grier chuckled when asked if he would consider trading Jaylen Waddle, and I quote, "No thoughts of trading Jaylen Waddle. He'll be around here for a long time." And then one thing I've stressed is it makes more sense right now to extend Waddle at between 20 to 24 million before guys like, I mean, you saw Higgins just got his franchise tag and they're going to be working a deal with him and it's going to fall in that range. But before guys like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown reset this market and come for Tyreek's $30 million annual average. Another thing I alluded to last year was it came out during the Jonathan Taylor trade discussions that one of the players they asked for was Jaylen Waddle, and we basically hung up the phone on them. So we know that they covet Jaylen Waddle. Moving off from him is counterproductive. What's your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, are you guys with me? This was ridiculous from the beginning of, because here's where it goes, gentlemen. Listen, whether it's Tua, whether it's McDaniel, whether it's trade Waddle, whatever the case is, it constantly feels like there's people in this fan base who want someone to blame. And so they want change right away because it'll make them feel better of, oh, okay, well, at least we made some change and we're changing from what, like, they just want change for the sake of change. It doesn't matter if there's any logic or reason behind it. That's thrown out the window. They just want change because they want to blame someone. And it felt like Waddle was sitting in the crossfires there because I've gone over the numbers over the last 2 years. Okay, number 10 in receiving yards over the last 2 years. All right, missing games and competing with Tyreek Hill. All right, 22nd in targets, but the 10th most receiving yards over the last 2 years. All right, 11th most touchdowns over the last 2 years. All right, second most yards per reception over the last 2 years. 10th most yards per game over the last 2 years. What do you guys think? Was this ridiculous from the get-go, Richmond?
It's definitely. And we talked about this, I think maybe last week or a couple weeks ago. They hold Jaylen Waddle in high regard, and it's a reason they do. And I think it was either you, BallGame, or both, that it would make more a year or two to move Tyreek, and Waddle becomes the number one. And we talked about this on that show. So, I think they hit the nail on the head. They hold him in high regard. He's still young. Like you say, he's coming up. It would make sense if you could get him at a little discount before, like you say, chasing those other guys, reset the market, because he has another year. He's going to be looking to fall somewhere in there. So that's another thing that we talked about, and you even brought up, Javon Holland. This is last year, so that's another one. It's just a group of core guys that that is valuable to this team, and those are the guys that You need to always try to keep them under contract, keep those guys happy, and reward them before the deal comes up. I'm saying 2 or 3 years earlier, but reward them where they're happy, and it makes it's easier on the cap and stuff like that. But yeah, he's not going anywhere, and I think that's why Chris Grier chuckled at the note somebody asked that question. Jaylen Waddle he's not the number one now, but eventually he's our number one receiver, and they hold him in regard, so he's not going anywhere.
I
What do you
across
think,
the
BallGame?
board, man. When you think, well, I don't even get into going back and forth with people that don't really understand how this whole process works, because you always draft with a plan in place for successors. And I think one of the main reasons when Tyreek became available, they brought him in specifically so that he could groom Waddle into the player that they want Waddle to eventually become. We saw how brilliant he was even without Tyreek, and he set the rookie records and stuff for the team and things of that nature with catches and his 3,000-yard seasons thus far, even with Tyreek being on the roster. But you can't at any point take a guy whose trajectory is like this and think about sending him somewhere else and then starting over. The Dolphins have done that too much. They've now put themselves, and we talked about this previously, they put themselves in a position with 4 key cornerstones for this team and a lot of other young talent around them to supplement what they've drafted. If you think about a rebuild in its entirety, the rebuild still the process after the first couple of years when you see some success and you see things getting turned around in the other way. It's sustainment at that point. And you have to have key cogs still on the team to be able to sustain yourself. If you go through this process of trading off these pieces in the hopes of thinking you're gonna get something better, then you're just shooting off. You're shooting craps at that point, and chances are you're gonna lose, right? Why gamble when you already have key pieces already in your possession? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. That's like somebody saying, like they got $100,000 in their safe at home, but you're gonna go outside and you're gonna go across the street to the neighbor. You say, "Hey, one roll, highest roll for this $100,000." You lose your $100,000. How you gonna replace it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that, nobody's doing that. People just need to understand, man. There's a process to this thing, and I like Grier getting out in front of it and laughing and scoffing at it because it's freaking ridiculous that you ain't nobody trading Jaylen Waddle. That's why people calling asking, is he available for a trade? And they ain't getting hung up on because the league knows how valuable that guy is. Like,
Yeah, he's a game changer.
Yeah, people just, big time.
People wilding out, man.
Always.
Yeah. Now, an interesting thing, I mentioned it on a show recently. I believe it was with Neil Driscoll and on Fin Too Deep, and we asked, should the Miami Dolphins trade up or trade back or stay pat in the draft? And some curious comments from Chris Grier today. He said, David Furones tweeted this out. Dolphins GM Chris Grier is not boxing himself into making a selection at 21 in the first round. I think you have to be open to everything. Grier mentioned moving up, moving down, or trading for, quote, a player that's a home run for us as possibilities. So everything is on the table at 21 because you're in that position where, if you've only got 18 first-round grades, you're right outside. Now you're getting into your high second-round grades, and you can go get capital for 21 for someone who might want to move up and take a quarterback this year because next year's class is so freaking weak. You might get someone biting to come up and get Bo Nix at 21, right? Like, that just is a realistic possibility this year. And you can get even more for someone moving up at 21 if they're moving up for a quarterback usually. So it makes sense, especially if you don't have that many first round grades, because no draft has 32 first round grades. It just doesn't happen. Usually you fall in the 18 to like 22, 24-ish range maximum is usually where you fall at with these scouts and everything going on. And I've seen some people saying they only have 14, 16 first round grades this year, which I don't have that little. But anyways, What are your guys' thoughts on him willing to be aggressive? And I also want to add another thing he said today, gentlemen, was he talked about they have this flexibility to make these moves until Tua's contract kicks in. Right? Can you hear me, BallGame? You can hear me, right? Yeah. That's on you or your end, Richmond. So you've got this flexibility. He talked about how you've got this flexibility until Tua's first year of real money kicks in. You've got this flexibility, and that's why I think he's mentioning trading for someone. What are your guys' thoughts on him being open to trading the 21st overall pick? You're muted, Richmond.
I think it's smart. I think you're looking at it realistically. You're in a position, unless it's a guy that you want that has either failed in the draft, or if everybody's taken and it's somebody and it's just a bunch of guys that you feel you can still get a quality guy but still move down in the second round and pick up additional draft picks. I think it makes sense. So if it was a top 10 pick or something like that, that's different. But where we're kind of slotted in 21, it kind of lets you know without saying, like you just said, BallGame, it's probably like 18 or maybe 20 that's true first round draft picks. And unless somebody screws up the draft order or something, or take a player that they value higher than that, maybe not slip down. But if it's not that guy that's going to make a definite immediate impact, and you can get him at 21, then I think he's willing to say, hey, where are we at right now? We got 3 or 4 guys we like. We can still move down in the second round. We pick up a couple of draft picks, and it helps us overall. So I think.
Let me ask you this, Richmond. Because I want to get your opinion on this, because we don't have a 3rd and 4th round pick. Would you be willing, like, let's say a guy like Talise Fuaga, Talise Fuaga, the tackle from Oregon State, or let's say the left tackle, left guard, Troy Fautanu from Washington, they're falling and they're hovering around 15 to 18. Would you move up and get that potential replacement for Teron Armstead, who's probably going to be retiring after this season? If you got your 3rd or 4th tackle / guy you could kick in at guard for this year beside Armstead, like we did with Tunsil and Brandon Albert, would that be a scenario? Would be a little bit opening up, because you know how valuable left tackles are, being one yourself, right?
That makes perfect sense. Of course, I don't think he would hesitate to pull a trigger on something like that if it was a couple of guys and he said, well, I know if I move up, I can get one of those guys. I think that's basically what he's saying is it's got to make sense for the Dolphins to either move up. If it doesn't make sense, and we're still at 21 with a pick, it's just the guys that are not going to make an immediate impact or whatever. Let's see if we can move that pick, see if somebody's interested, and pick additional draft picks. And like you said, not having a 3rd and 4th round, it just makes perfect sense. So, yeah, if it does, he'll move up, but not gonna move down or at there. So that's the way I kind of read it too. That's what I got from what he was saying.
What do you think, BallGame?
I think in terms of draft history, and the way the NFL shakes up, there's always more 3rd and 4th round selections that actually make it a lot longer in their careers than 1st and 2nd rounders. So for us not having those picks, I think it's crucial that we figure out a way, if there's not a guy that's sitting there right before it's our time to pick, that we really are truly in love with, to the point that we just have to have him, and he's going to be someone that they're going to take and immediately start day one, then yeah, move back and then get those picks in those later rounds, because I think the quality of this draft is in the latter part of the 2nd, top of the 3rd, middle of the 3rd, and without having a pick there, we miss out on those, what I consider to be unforeseen gems, because no one, I have roughly about 14 first round talents, and everybody else after that point, for me, in terms of how I look at it, are pretty much just guys that are good at football but not over the top great, that wouldn't go in and just shake up a roster just by you add them to it. They're not gonna go steal somebody's job unless you're forcing them into the position. So for me, it makes definite sense for Chris Grier to be, trying to get some more picks. Because then at that point you can feel, because this team has a lot of holes, and we can find some real good young talents that you can come in and at least have quality depth, young quality depth, and guys that are. I always believe you got to have the right blend of veteran presence, but you need young dogs to push the old dogs sometimes, because then unfortunately the old dogs get tired and they lay down. And if they lay down on you without the young dogs having any experience, their sled ain't going nowhere. Think about how they build sled dogs, right? They build sled dog teams, right? The old dog is up front leading, but it's some young dogs in the back that keep the work, right? Because the old dog up front has the experience of the routes and all that stuff. And then once his time is done, one of the dogs, that dog actually takes over that job from he beats that dog and takes that job from him. And that's how that process works. So I think of the same thing about football, man. Quality picks in the 3rd and 4th round always seem to last a lot longer in the NFL than first round picks. Some guys don't grade just because you got, you said it last week. We explained it to him last week. Just because you got a 1st round grade on a player doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to play that way, because that's a lot. You got to be able to come in right away. And these are kids, man. We're talking about a lot. It takes them years to get to where they got to go. And some of them never get there. But them guys at 3rd and 4th round, they working from day one. And they know what it looks like to have to grind, because they weren't studs even on their college teams, but they have a work ethic about them that's going to sustain them over and over and over. And those are the ones that are over the top dependable. So yeah,
you're talking about you got 14 1st round grades in total. I got 4 at wide receiver alone, so I got more than 14. I think I got about, was it like 18 or 19 this year? But I mean, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, and Brian Thomas Jr. alone. This receiver class is so good. If we needed a receiver, we were like at the perfect spot to potentially like get a steal. But I know we need a receiver, but I don't see them spending with the holes that are starting to develop, and and the vision starting to basically come together. I don't think receiver at 21 makes a lot of sense unless one of those top 4 is on the board, but I think they'll all probably be gone by then.
Does.
Yeah, Edge. I think Edge is being slept on a little bit this year. I've already talked about that. I know there's been mocks. What was it? Daniel Jeremiah. Someone mocked, Leatu Latu to us, and I don't think there's any way he makes it to 21. Are you crazy? I think I think Latu, Turner, and Verse might be gone. I mean, there's a good, and depending on how Chop Robinson tests, he might be a guy that's in the 20s that people are salivating over for. And same with Darius Robinson. I mean, you might have 5 edges go in the 1st round, So, and then you get into that 2nd, I think that's when you're getting into like the Chris Braswells and the Braylon Trices and the Adisa Isaacs and stuff. You know what I mean? So, anyways, continuing on. Guys, the Miami Dolphins finally won something. They finally finished 1st place, start the parade, set the parade route. Let me know the date I'm coming down for, because the Miami Dolphins, ladies and gentlemen, by the NFLPA, so this isn't the Athletic or ESPN, this is the NFLPA. The Miami Dolphins report card, we went over this last year, 2024 this year. They were ranked 1st of 32 teams. The Miami Dolphins are the top-ranked team in the NFLPA's 2024 report card. Stephen Ross is the highest-graded club owner in their survey, receiving a near-perfect score. I mean, they must love it when you cut the checks in that Miami sun, eh? The club owner's ranking reflects the strong performance in key areas that players care about, including the quality of the facilities, the comfort of the players' travels, and the quality and quantity of the staff across. I didn't see checkbook in that list, but I don't know. Someone tell me when they saw that. The state-of-the-art facilities continue to impress, but more importantly, are complemented by a number of quality trainers, strength coaches, and other support staff who help make the workplace experience one of the best across the board. So here's the things. Treatment of families, they were third, they were A-. I mean, we are one of many teams that offer like daycare and such for the family. I mean, the Patriots, they were ranked as one of the worst teams by the NFLPA. They don't even offer daycare for families, let alone family sections for games and stuff. Like they were given like an F with how they treat families. It was hilarious. Food and cafeteria was given an A. Maybe Richmond's eating there in one of his trips. I don't know. But I know Jalen Phillips was going off on Twitter today about the burrito tacos that they make in the cafeteria. And I'm sitting here going, what kind of bougie cafeteria do we have? We're out here making burrito tacos. I absolutely love it because I love me some burrito tacos. They're freaking amazing. Oh man, I love them. Dip them in that au jus beef sauce, whatever the hell it is.
Easy.
So good.
Easy.
Oh, brother.
Easy.
Nutritionist and dietitian, that's a A. And that's ranked number 2. The one thing I could never get, is I saw those guys during Hard Knock. Everyone drinking Pedialyte. Have you actually ever drank that stuff? That stuff is like Wilkins got to buy that.
Yeah, but it keeps.
I know it keeps you hydrated,
from
right?
Getting dehydrated.
Yeah, it keeps you hydrated. But it tastes like, oh my God. Locker room, they were given an A. That was the 3rd in the league. Training room, they were given an A, 1st in the league. Training staff was 1st in the league, given an A-. And I know Javon Holland called fans out for that because some fan commented and said to Javon, how can this training staff be an A- with all the injuries? You should know better than anyone, Javon. And Javon called the guy out and called him a casual on Twitter. Because fans have been saying, hey, do we got to switch up the training staff with all the injuries and stuff? Weight room was given an A+. Strength coaches was given an A. We're talking about 1st, 2nd. Team travel was given an A 1st. Head coach was the 8th best out of 12, out of 32. So by the players given an A. And ownership given an A+. And then it goes into the details. You can go all check this out. Look at ranked 1st in overall food taste, guys, in the cafeteria. If you've been down there, Richmond, and you ain't eating at the cafeteria, what are you doing with your life and legacy right now, okay? You're in the Ring of Honor so you can get to the front of the line of the Burrito Taco Day on Tuesday, bro. So I want to ask you though, what as a former player, Richmond, really, and I'll get BallGame thoughts on this, but really aim this towards you as a former player. How were the facilities and how was the treatment of your family and such back when you were a player compared to what you're seeing on this report card? When you see I'm guessing the cafeteria wasn't as good, but what was it like when you were playing relative to what you're seeing on that report card?
Yeah, when I first got there, it was pretty bad. We were at St. Thomas University in Miami, not far from the stadium. And then I think my 3rd year, 92, we moved up to Nova Southeastern in Davie. And it was night and day. The first facilities that they had when I was a rookie, my first couple years, it was like, you wouldn't believe. I think the Dolphins and I think the Saints it was known probably 2 of the worst facilities out of all teams in the league at that time. But definitely got better in 92. But as far as family, having a family section, they know I'm trying to keep it together. I don't recall a daycare and all that. That's something, but everything's keep evolving and changing and this and that. Then I think they provided food was okay when we moved up to Dave. It wasn't bad. And I think it was 2 days a week. I think it's probably gone to another level now. But, the facilities, trainers, we always had good coaches, stuff like that. So, that's pretty good to hear that, people hold in all those different categories to be held at high in regard and this and that. And then being Florida where, you got the good weather and stuff like that, you can't beat it. So, when you get reports like that and other players see you and they come down to visit as far as free agents, it should give them more of an incentive to sign. Like you say, especially if you come from a place like New England where, it was really bad. I need to go look at that report because I bust that laughing.
Oh, you got to.
When you said
bro,
that about
dude, New England, They were given an F-. They were ranked 30th out of 32 in treatment of families.
Oh no.
They were given an F and ranked 32nd in the weight room. They were ranked 31st in strength coaches. They were ranked 27th in head coach, 27th in ownership. What a fall from grace for Robert Kraft, right? I mean, let's talk about the cafeteria for a second, though. Let's not take this lightly. We were ranked 1, all right? The Buffalo Bills are ranked 23rd. The Jets are ranked 25th. And the Patriots are ranked 15th. That's actually the Patriots' best ranking is their cafeteria at 15. We're the cream of the crop when it comes to the cafeteria in the AFC East, baby. I mean, let's get it to the field, boys. I mean, these are the other teams that should be, the burrito tacos and burritos in New York are the ones that shouldn't be sitting well in your stomach, right? You should be coming out here and playing, balling out. But yeah, the overall, the Dolphins are ranked 1st. The Bills were ranked 11th. The Jets were ranked 21st. And this is overall. And the Patriots overall were ranked 29th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say more. Uh-oh. There she go.
Uh-oh.
She getting big, boy. Look at her.
And she
said, "Stay with Papa."
She said, "There I go. I don't want. I'm out."
Yeah, she don't want no parts of it. She's sleeping. You've been up all day. Honestly, I took a 1 hour nap. So.
Oh snap! All right, let's get into this finally because I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. This dropped today, guys. I didn't send this to you. I'm hitting y'all with a curveball and a good one at that. So follow along with me, okay, gentlemen? Contract breakdown projections for 7 quarterback extension candidates, okay? Now, Tua Tagovailoa is the one we care about. This is what they broke it down as. 4 years, $220 million. It's a 55 annual average. 105 of that is guaranteed at signing. 165 is practically guaranteed. You can see his dead cap and his cap hit over the years. It's 15, 60, 60. The reason why it doesn't matter right here is because you're going to be pushing this money around, right? 2025 would be the first year it actually kicks in, right? So you're going to restructure that and push the money because he's going to be here for the first 2 years of the deal, right? So what you need to look at is the real money here. And so anyways, let me read this excerpt and then I'll get into it. The Dolphins appear poised to extend Tua this offseason, who's entering his fully guaranteed 50-year option season valued at $23.171 million. We projected a contract that tacks on 4 years and $220 million or 5 years at about $243 million total value. Of this, 105 is fully guaranteed at signing through 2025. Another 50 locks in next March, and a final 10 roster bonus vests a year early for the 2027 season. Miami may look to build in a per-game active bonus for this contract based on his injury history, but we've opted to leave these out for now. The bottom line here is that no player in football has more leverage than an above-average quarterback, and that's been reflected here. Now, here's my thing. Okay, so let's break this down. 4 years, $220 million. Guys, and I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to people in the chat and watching. Don't look at this 55. Throw this out. That don't matter. Okay, that doesn't mean. What matters here are these two numbers. Okay, so they're paying 105 of that 165 guaranteed upfront right away. That's off the books. That's why Stephen Ross gets an A and is ranked the number 1 owner, because he can cut that check at signing. A lot of owners can't cut these big checks at signing. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. And it's 165 guaranteed. So let's do some math. 105 minus 165 practicing. So that tells you there's about 60 million guaranteed over the 4 years. Okay. Now, that's about 15 million a year a season. That is very easy to maneuver around on. Like, that is, and let's take that 165 and divide it by 4 years. That's only about $41.25 million of guaranteed money a year if you want to average it out. All right. And that's really not that bad when you break it down, because, for example, Justin Herbert, he's about $43.6 million per year at his 218, and Burrow's about just over $44 million a year. So he's falling in $3 million less than the guy who's been to the Super Bowl and $2 million less than the guy who's got 2 coaches fired, had his team picking in the top 5 this year, and is renowned as a choker in Justin Herbert, okay? So, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Because as you look at these numbers, people get scared off by the 220 or the 55 without realizing, gentlemen, if you pay that 105 at guaranteed and you only got 60 guaranteed to spread out from 2025 to 2028, that's not a lot of money, and that gives you a lot of flexibility, gentlemen. That lets you, and I'm sure there's going to be an out built in there where if I was looking at this, your out would probably come after 2026. So what are your guys' thoughts on this projection? Because I even said this, gentlemen, I'm not going to get my panties in a bunch about a Spotrac projection that isn't even the real numbers yet. So, but what are your guys' thoughts on that? Because I think relative to the current market, and the cap went up $30 million this year, and they've said they're trying to smooth out and spread over this influx. Guys, the cap in 2 years could be up another 60 million. We could be from 255 this year to about 315 in 2 years, and that deal against that kind of cap, that's a steal for us. So what are your guys' thoughts on those numbers? Because X and social media were just wiling out over that projection this year, because I think it's actually kind of fair.
Well,
Yeah,
to be honest with you, I think. Go ahead, Richard.
Go ahead, BallGame. Go ahead.
I think in terms of where we are in regards to Tua age and the fact that Dak Prescott probably going to reset the market, I think this is a bargain. If this is indeed where things fall in line, I think that across the board, this is a great opportunity for the Dolphins to set themselves up with their franchise quarterback and then not kill your cap in terms of limit you in your ability to be able to add pieces as you keep moving with your quarterback and as he progresses and grows. Nobody, if they're really looking at this objectively, can say to themselves that Tua has not improved over the last 2 seasons exponentially. And it's pretty good probability that he's going to get even better. So if you can lock him into a system, lock him into a contract that's cap friendly for one and gives you flexibility down the road to move the money that's still left on the contract around to be able to add other key pieces to add to this team, that just makes good business sense. And Stephen Ross will definitely, for 105, he got a right to sign. That's light work for him in terms of how you look at real business being done. And I think the Dolphins will be crazy not to take that, because Dak Prescott is definitely finna put Jerry Jones over the barrel. At 31 years of age, Dak's probably going to be somewhere close to 60 million. While people are arguing about, when you think about it, right? People saying, oh, he's not better than Herbert, or he's not better than Burrow. Well, when you look at the averages, his average will be less than them. So just shut up and just enjoy the ride, because those guys are going to flame out too. And when it's all said and done, we'll still have a lot of cap flexibility with an amazing quarterback that's still growing and getting better every season, leading this team to success. I think it's a no-brainer. So,
what are your thoughts, Richmond?
Yeah, I agree with BallGame, and I agree with you. And I'm glad you kind of explained that. Most people will look at the 220 million or whatever that number was and say, "Oh, we're doing this," and it's not really the case. If you look at 4 years, 165, that's about 41. If they can get that done and get to it, and I think that's why you've been hearing reports of they want to get this done sooner than later, because if they let it linger on and then a guy like BallGame said, Dak Prescott comes and sets the market, then his agent's definitely going to say, well, we should be asking for a little bit more now. So the sooner they get this done, and they can fall somewhere pretty close to those numbers. And like you said, you get 105 million signing bonus up front, and that's huge. I mean, talking about security, that's security. And then other thing, like you said too, is it's not for you set in stone. It'll be an out or some kind of clause put in there that it kind of protects both parties. So we can get that done. That'd be really cap friendly, and it really help us. Like you said, if the cap keeps coming up, that takes a lot of pressure off the Dolphins. And you got quarterback, so That was good.
Yeah. Final thoughts, gentlemen?
I think
Go ahead,
I
BallGame.
think we're in an amazing place right now, man. I think with all of the things and all of the changes that are going to be happening to this team, I think there's still enough core quality players on this team for this Dolphins team to still be over the top competitive. And we've proven through adding some amazing coaches that, that still matters in the NFL. And I've seen a lot of guys get better as a result of the coaching around them. So they're doing it right, man. They're doing it from the bottom up. And then they're not taking any shorts on keeping the best players that fit Mike's scheme on one side. I think Webb, we was going to be able to get some pieces for himself as well that he's going to be able to grow and groom. He can start fresh off with Cam Smith out there on the opposite side because Vic didn't give him anything to work with last year. But that's a real solid piece that I believe he's going to be able to build around for the future as well. And then whatever they can garner in the draft, they decide to move out of 21 and have some flexibility to add some more key pieces. The Dolphins are sitting in a really good space. I don't see any reasons why we should regress. I think that the progression that we've started in terms of the energy movement forward is positive in nature, and I just don't really see how we can take any steps back. It's going to hurt to lose X, right? Because, he's a fan favorite and a guy that's been here from day one. But, the business side of things, players do get old, and then they stop becoming the high-end versions of themselves that they used to be. And, there's no shade on him, but we got to see what the young boy brings to the table, and that helps the cap. At the end of the day, the older the player is, the more experienced they are, the more they're going to cost. And, we got a young guy who I think can help this team right away next year. There's nothing about the kid and what he did in college that says he can't play. So we're just going to be interested to see how they groom him and get him ready to play on the opposite side of Jaylen. And I'm excited for where we are right now. This is a good time of the year, man, with all of the conversations about what the Dolphins should do. I think Grier has a really good head on his shoulder. I'm hoping that he's learning from his mistakes and he's putting things in place so he doesn't have these issues in the future. But if the cap keeps doing what it's doing and this money keeps ballooning up like it will, we'll have enough money to be able to keep the core intact and add some other key pieces, probably some other veterans that we didn't even think about. And that's just going to bode even that much better for the Dolphins in the long run. So, fins up.
Richmond?
Yeah, I think the thing for me is just, getting some of these key players signed and, being smart in the draft. And based on what Chris Grier said in his previous comments as far as the draft coming up with that 21st pick, if the player is not there that we want or possibly want, or either move up to get him or not move down. And I think that's why he kind of said it like he's not, nothing is etched in stone. He's going to see what's available. If it's something available that we want to go, we'll be aggressive and go get it. If not, we'll move down and acquire more draft picks. And that's always a good thing. So we're right there. All this is going to kick off, and I'm going to just sit back and then enjoy the ride. But I agree with BallGame. I would like to see us as a team, as an organization, get ahead of this where we can keep our core guys together and start trying to sign them before everybody comes up, or it just puts you in a position you don't constantly have to be in. If you can minimize that, I think it'll just help take us to that next level.
Agreed, 110%, man. And hey, I mean, listen, it'll be nice to get out ahead of some freaking contracts for Jesus,
contracts. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get out ahead of some contracts. You know what I mean? I mean, we got guys where you should be activating the 5th year and trying to get deals done with them. But listen, if you're a Patreon or a community channel member, look for an update coming later tonight, a 3 takes video for you on Patreon, and a written update under the channel under the community tab on the channel for channel members only. I will have a bunch of combine news and notes, rumblings that I'm hearing. Tomorrow, I will be live with Neil Driscoll around 5 o'clock. We got tons we'll talk about, including draft, because that's what we love. Friday, I will be dropping my top 30. Yes, top 30, not top 25. I've grown from last year because so of our needs are my top 30 free agent targets for the Miami Dolphins, right? And the top 10 of that top 30 will have all 22 included of each player. So be out on the lookout for that. That'll be coming Friday. So a lot of content coming your way as we get ready for free agency, because again, there's only 1 day left in February, and then 11 days after that until the tampering window opens up, and 13 days after that until free agency opens. Yes, 2 weeks from today, free agency opens up at 4 p.m., the start of the new league year. Smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and as always, fins up all day, every day, until Margaritaville sends a cease and desist my way.